Okay, I'm at the Lions Super Duper Flea Market in Saskatoon at the exhibition grounds. I come here twice a year, November, today, which is the 19th, and they do it in February. This is my booth all set up, came yesterday. This is one of the few shows where you can set up the day before. So we came and set up and came back early this morning. All the goodies I have. This show is different than most shows I do. Most shows I do are strictly record shows. There's only a couple non-record shows that I do. This is one of them. So this is a big flea market. Not a lot of record guys here. It's mostly antiques and crafts and baking goods and that kind of stuff. Hockey cards. But there is a few guys that sell records, but a lot of them are not record collector type guys, so it's a lot of standard kind of stuff that's overpriced. Hi, this is Dwayne Rockin' Doc Anderson, back with another YouTube video. And this time around I wanted to talk about my recent trip to Saskatoon for the Lions Super Duper Flea Market, which took place yesterday, Saturday, November 19th, at the exhibition grounds in Saskatoon. And normally I don't do other than record shows, with the exception of this one, and there's another one or two flea market garage sale type things that I go to. And when I go to those, I usually take more stuff than records. I take some comics and maybe some toys. So there's a better selection for flea markets. Anyways, the one good thing about this show is, unlike most of the record shows, you can set up the day before. So I went to Saskatoon on Friday so I could set up, take my time setting up, not rush it. I hate when you have to rush to set up the same morning before the doors open. It's just a real pain in the ass. So this one, I went Friday to set up and spent the night. Costs a little money to stay overnight, so that adds to your expenses, but I'd rather pay a bit of money than have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to drive from Lloyd, which, if you remember my last video, is about 3 hours from here to Saskatoon. And another annoying thing is here in Alberta do that stupid time change thing in the spring and the fall, which they don't do in Saskatchewan. So not only do you have to, if you're setting up the same day, not only do you have to get up early, you have to get up extra early, because Saskatchewan is an hour ahead of us. So that's why I like it when you can set up the day before. Anyways, like I said, we went on Friday to set up, and I knew because of setting up and Saturday, by the end of the show, I wouldn't have time to go to any of the record stores because they'd be closed already. So I did stop at one on the way in, as soon as I got in. The Vinyl Exchange, it's called. It's right in downtown Saskatoon. So I stopped there to check it out. And I did pick up a few things while I was there. Got the brand new Hendrix album, which just came out this past week. It's a double live album recorded at the LA Forum in April of 1969, I believe. Yep, 69. And this is one of those official live bootlegs that his family's putting out on the Experience Hendrix label. So I haven't heard it. I haven't even cracked it. It's still sealed. But it was remixed by Eddie Kramer. It's the entire show. I think some bootlegs have come out with just partial, not the whole show. But it should sound good. I'm looking forward to listening to this one. Also picked up some 10 years after, the Stonehenge album. It's one of the albums I was missing from the collection. I've had it on my want list and just never got around to picking it up. But you see here, it was $34.95, but it was on sale for $26.95. So I figured, what the hell, if I could save a few dollars, I'll get it finally. So I got this one. This is, I believe, the 2017 reissue in mono. So got that one. Then I picked up a few used things. I've been thinking about getting this one for a while, but I never got a chance to get it. This is Fat Mattress, their first album from 1969. And speaking of the Jimi Hendrix Experience, Noel Redding is in this band. He was the bassist for the Jimi Hendrix Experience, but actually on this album and their subsequent second album called Fat Mattress 2, he actually plays guitar and does some vocals. And I finally saw a copy. I've seen this before, but I never picked it up. But this one's in decent shape and was at a reasonable price. Picked up a few Canadian things. You might remember from my last video I spoke about Bob Segrini and showed you some of his solo work. Well, this is his band before he went solo and after he was in the Whackers. I don't know if you can see that too well, but they're called the Dudes. And I don't know anything about this band. I've never heard anything from them. But I decided to give it a shot just because, for one thing, and actually, you don't come across this one that often. I actually found it in their at the record store in their new arrivals. I guess they just got it in. Somebody traded it in, and it was cheap. So I figured, what the hell? I'll take a chance. It shouldn't be too bad. It's got Bob Segrini in it. And it also has a couple of future members of April Wine in this band called the Dudes. The other Canadian thing I picked up was Nova Scotia Boy, Dutch Mason Blues Band. Now he's had a couple of releases prior to this, either under just his own name or the Dutch Mason Trio. But this is his first release under the Dutch Mason Blues Band title, and it's called The Blues Ain't Bad. And he was referred to, became known as the Prime Minister of the Blues, a name which he actually got from B.B. King. And a lot of people consider this his best album. So, should be a good one. Well, like I said, I set up Friday at the Lions Super Duper Flea Market. They do it twice a year, once in November and once in February, which kind of sucks. I'd rather that it'd be nicer if they did it in the spring or the fall when there's no snow on the ground and it's not 20 degrees below zero. I can maybe see why they do the November one because it's close to Christmas, and maybe they'll get more people there to shopping for Christmas. I don't know why they do. That's the only reason I can think of. Anyways, like I said, the next one's in February. I've already bought my tables and paid for my space and everything. So that's, I think it's 4 days after Valentine's Day in February. So back again for unloading in the cold and the snow. Anyways, like I said, this is a flea. It's a big flea market, a huge flea market, and a lot of the vendors there are selling antiques or crafts. There's a lot of baking goods, preservatives, that kind of stuff. There's very few guys selling records, just a small handful, other than myself. Uh, so mixed in with all these other things are these guys selling records, and most of them aren't like guys like me. They're record collectors. They're just guys that have a table full of antiques and maybe a couple of boxes of records. So I looked around at some of the other vendors that are selling records, and there are a couple that know what they're doing, uh, and they have sometimes have good stuff. I just didn't find any this time, but most of the guys selling records at places like the flea markets and stuff like that have no idea about grading or pricing. So what I found at most of the vendors that were selling records, and once again I have to say, not all of them. There's a couple there that actually knew what they were doing, but most of them don't. So what I saw at the flea market, which I usually see, is a lot of overpriced, trashy junk. I didn't find anything that I would pay money for. Uh, and most of these vendors sell the really common stuff, so it's, if you're looking for something out of the ordinary or something different, you probably won't find it at a vendor at a flea market, unless unless you go to my booth. But that being said, um, and it's my taste also, you know, there's some good stuff. You could find some good stuff from other vendors. Just I couldn't find anything that I was interested in. So, anyways, I got nothing from the flea market other than some caramel popcorn. But I didn't get any records. So maybe in February I'll find some better stuff that I'm into. So we'll have to wait and see. But on Friday, just before I was getting ready to leave to Saskatoon, the mail lady showed up and had a package of stuff for me. And it turns out it was a mail order that I've been waiting for a while, because it takes a while to get stuff from Europe. Um, was a package from Japuta Records in Portugal, and it's one of the few places that I do mail order with. One of the other ones that I do mail order with, I spoke about in the last video, is Trash Wax Records. It's hard to say all at once. Uh, in the Netherlands, and I like to get my stuff from them because their postal rates are awesome. It's 17.50 euros for no matter how many records you buy, 1 or 20. It's the same price. Unfortunately, Chaputa doesn't do that flat rate kind of thing. They have a sliding rate that depends on what you buy and how many and the weight and that kind of thing. Anyways, I did get this package just before I headed out to Saskatoon, and here's some. Oh, and I want to say that all of this stuff is brand new releases. They've come out within the last maybe 2 to 4 months. So some really great reissues, starting with this. The Makers. This is a reissue of their self-titled third LP, which originally was released in 1995. They're a garage punk band from Spokane, Washington. with a reproduction of their famous FU finger cover. So I'm looking forward to hearing this one. I have one or two other albums by them. Also got this one. This is a brand new band, and I do have a hard time pronouncing this. It's Strangsbrew, and it's the debut album just came out, uh, and it's called Too Far North, and it's kind of a hard rock and high energy kind of band that features the vocalist and the guitarist from the Fleshtones and the drummer from the Helicopters. And there's a couple of other guys from bands that I don't really know about, the Maggots and the Solution. I don't really know those bands at all. And if you can see that little sticker at the bottom there, comes with a CD, a full album for free. So there you go. Another reissue I was looking forward to because I have a lot of their stuff, and this was a brand new one, and I'd actually waited to do this order for a while because this one wasn't out yet, and I didn't want to order some stuff and have it sitting there waiting for this to come in before they shipped it. This is the reissue of the Fuzztones. It's called Preaching to the Perverted, and it's a reissue of their 7th album, which was originally out in 2011. And this reissue has 2 bonus tracks on it that were recorded at the same sessions, but weren't on the original album. So, and like most of the Fuzztones album, great cover. I love the artwork on the Fuzztones album. So I got another live album from the Sonics Rendezvous Band. We talked about them. Well, I talked about them on my last video because I just gotten another live album called No Sleep to Ypsilanti. And if you remember, I mentioned that while they were together, the band only officially released one single. There's been several unofficial live bootlegs that have appeared over the years. This one just came out. It's called Out of Time. And this band, you remember, features Fred Sonic Smith from the MC5 and Ron Ashton from the Stooges. This, again, is a double live album recorded at Second Chance in Detroit in February of 1980. And here's the inside cover. I don't know if you can see that. There's the track listing. And apparently, from what I've read, is this is the entire show. And they say this is like one of the last shows they did before they split up. Apparently, they split up not too long after this show. And I do hope the sound. I haven't heard this. I do hope the sound quality is as good, or hopefully better, than the No Sleep Till Ypsilanti. So, waiting to hear this one, Sonic Rendezvous Band. Picked up another couple of reissues of a band that I already have. I believe I have all their stuff except their first 2 albums, which have the Italian label Heavy Psych Sounds just reissued their catalog. This is the reissue of their first album, which originally came out in 2002. And there's a bunch of different color variations on these albums. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, they're an LA hard rock garage, punky, maybe with a bit of psych in them. Uh, but these albums came in a bunch of different color variations, from black to one solid color, and then you could get some fancy splatter vinyl, or I think there was a couple that there were half and half kind of albums, half different colors. But those ones were like 10 euros extra, although they were limited editions of 100 of each. I think this is one of the colored versions. I'm not sure if I remember correctly. I think the blacks came in editions of 400, and the solid colors came in editions of, I believe, 200. I could be wrong, but even the solid colored ones were limited. So this, I'm not sure. I can't remember what the color is on this. It might be blue. Anyways, this album, like I said, was their first album. It's called "To Hell with the Lords of Altamont," and if you look here, it says original soundtrack to this movie called "To Hell with." And it's made out to look like a movie poster, but it's fake. There was no movie, and this isn't really a soundtrack to that movie. They just wanted it to look that way. And I have several of those kind of albums. I've got a couple more where they're supposedly soundtracks to a movie, but there's no real movie. Well, now I got another one. The Lords of Altamont, "To Hell with." And I also got the reissue of their second album, which came out in 2005, called Lords Have Mercy. And now I have, I believe my collection is complete. I think I have all their albums now that I have their first two. So that was my mail order from Caputa. I just got a couple of little notes here, because this wasn't a complete shipment. Apparently, Europe is having the same kind of problems as North America is having with record pressing plant issues. Not getting their stuff when they're supposed to get it. So I had two other things on order that they decided to ship without those two because they probably aren't sure when actually they're going to get them. They were both supposed to be out by, I think it was, both of them were supposed to be out already, like within the last week, but didn't happen. So I'm waiting, because I've already paid for them, and I'm just waiting. A new Headcoats 7-inch EP. It's a tribute to Don Crane, who the Headcoats knew very well. He was in the Downliner sect. He passed away earlier this year, and they're doing this 7-inch single. They're calling it the Headcoats sect. And it's I believe it's 4 tracks of Downliner sect covers that they decided to do. So waiting for that. I also ordered a couple of new compilation albums called Swedish Meatballs. I believe they're double albums. They must be, because they were expensive. And it's tracks from the Swedish hard rock psychedelic era, 1970 to 77. There's a volume 1 and a volume 2. And like I said, they were expensive. They were like 35 euros each, but they had a bundle deal where if you bought both of them, you got them for, like, instead of 70 euros, they were 62, I believe it was. So obviously those weren't, I guess they didn't get those in time and they're still waiting for those to get pressed. So sometime down the line, I should be getting another package from Caputa with the records that I didn't get in this shipment. And I don't know if I told you at the beginning of this, when I was talking about Caputa, the postage on this shipment was 55 euros, and that works out to about 75 bucks Canadian. So, like I said, the reason I actually buy from Caputa because they have a lot of great stuff, and a lot of great stuff that you can't get anywhere else. So I'm willing to fork over that extra high amount of dollars for postage just to get stuff. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you can, there should be a button below that says subscribe. It'd be great if you could do that. Get notifications when I have another video coming out, which I hope to be soon. We'll talk about some more records. Anyways, again, I hope you enjoyed. Stay safe and stay healthy. We'll see you next time.